All right, so today we're going to talk about GPT. Specifically, ChatGPT was at a congressional hearing, I think. Let's just get into it. Altman is asking the U.S. Senate to regulate AI. Why, you ask? It will reduce OpenAI's competition and give it the most it needs. Big corporations like OpenAI have the resources, both people and money, to follow all the regulations. Small corporations are heads down building the technology and do not have the resources to jump through all the hoops. Open source models that do not comply with all the regulatory bells and whistles will need to be taken down. This puts a full stop to innovation. If an agency is created to license any AI technology, it puts up a huge barrier to entry. That was poorly worded. By doing this, OpenAI and other big platforms win. So my response to that was, yep, pretty much. OpenAI wants to use the force of the government to give them a legal monopoly, Microsoft style. I'm sure Sam, has been promoted to super Democrat rank, but Microsoft OpenAI, seems scared Elon, co-founder of OpenAI, will make good on his threat to reestablish yet another OpenAI to compete with what I'm now calling MS OpenAI or OpenAI MS. You know, like MSNBC is Microsoft plus NBC, so this would be Microsoft plus OpenAI. If Elon goes and creates another open source AI, OpenAI, to compete with MS AI for free with open source LLMs, thereby rendering ChatGPT LM. Oh God, this is word salad. Microsoft spent $10 billion to secure as an overpriced, expensive, or obsolete. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if Elon goes and creates a new open source AI that's just going to render ChatGPT just expensive and probably obsolete as the whole world rushes in to build it through open source software. So anyways, I say get the popcorn, kids. There's a firework flame show going on with the magicians. Let's listen to Sam Altman testify.
The worst fears are that the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world. I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong. And we want to be vocal about that. We want to work with the government to prevent that from happening. But we try to be very clear-eyed about what the downside case is and the work that we have to do to mitigate that.
So essentially, Sam is pulling up the ladder behind him as he gets into the plane so nobody else can get on this bandwagon. Here's the All In podcast with Calcanis, David, what's his face, and Chatmoth, talking about ChatGPT and Sam Altman's testimony.
Go ahead, Freiberg.
Chamath, in the context of what we're talking about, that models are becoming smaller and can be run on the edge, and there's obviously hundreds and thousands of variants of these open source models that have, good effect and perhaps compete with some of these models that you're mentioning that are closed source. How do you regulate?
I think in order for you to be able to compile that model to generate that initial instantiation, you're still running it in a cluster of thousands of GPUs.
But let's say we're past that.
You can't be past that. We're not past that yet. Okay. We don't have 5 million models. We don't have all kinds of things that solve all kinds of problems. We don't have an open source available simulation of every single molecule in the world, including all the toxic materials.
Yeah, I fail to see why that's relevant. So what? You don't have a million models. You only needed one to get the space race going again. And now it seems like there's 1,000 models that are out there. I'm going to show you one in just a minute. Like, for example, let's just say I wanted to go get a model. So a big one that was open this week is privateGPT. If you haven't heard of it, we could just run over to GitHub real quick. Hold my beer. So privateGPT, you could just clone this real quick. You run through all the installation steps. So I previously did that, but let's just run through it and just show how quick we could do this. Keyword list. Okay. So we're going to make a new private GPT demo, and then we're going to clone GPT, private GPT. There, it's done. I already created a conda environment for Python, and we got to specifically use 3.10, so Py10, and we'll activate that. It's not a problem. Then we're going to go ahead and install the requirements. Done. Then we're going to move the example environment variables to here. Then we're going to download a GPT for all model. That's free, but we'll just go ahead and take a look. Yeah, whatever. So you could just wget that. Done. Well, that actually takes a minute. And then we got to do our ingests. So Python ingest py. Okay, once all that's done, let's run it. Run privateGPT. So this model is running on my own computer. I'm going to enter in a query and say, who is Elon Musk? Let it think. By the way, this is not making a network call out to the internet. Like a lot of applications are just trying to use ChatGPT's API to do the calls. And then it looks like they have big data models, but they don't. Whereas on this one, here's a relatively okay sized model. It's not too big. It's on my local hard drive, and it's actually running. And let's see what it says. Elon Musk is a technology entrepreneur, inventor, and CEO of several companies, including SpaceX, Tesla, The Boring Company, the Neural Implant Company. He is also the founder of Solar City and a vocal advocate for sustainable energy solutions. So we could ask another thing. Hey, GPT, can you write a Node.js application using Google OAuth? Let's give it a go. But anyways, it's going to start streaming out some code for a Node.js application. Maybe a more apt one would be, how about a Python Flask application? So that we could take this code that we're running here locally for privateGPT and put it into a web server. Yes, I can write a Node.js application using Google OAuth to authenticate users and authorize access to Google services. Here's an example of how to use the Google OAuth library in Node.js to authenticate a user and obtain an access token. And so now it's blowing out the code for you. Okay, there you go. Here's some usable code. But what I was saying earlier is, what if we wrote either a Node application or a Python application? I'm thinking Flask is fast. And now we have privateGPT on the back end. So then you could create a new API and just ask the API that I own on my server the same questions you would have asked GPT, write a little front end for it, and boom, you're done. I personally was thinking about putting this up for my video site, lindsayfilm.com. See if I still have it. Okay, so what I have here is a sample chat application. Oh, I need to be in a different browser. So I'll be Jack. So I have one user for myself, and I have another user for a fictitious character called Jack from Lost. Hey, Jack. So, and then Jack, because I'm in a different browser as a different user, gets the message. And then Jack would say, not much. Not much. Have you heard of privateGPT? And as you can see, we now have a little instant messaging application, which is pretty sweet. What I'm thinking is, if I put GPT on the background, I can create a bot here where you just interact, you just talk to it like ChatGPT would, but now it's my own server, it's my own bot. I could train it to say what I want it to say or not say. And, you know, you could use it as a knowledge resource. You could have it search stuff. You could use it to help write code. So like what I'm getting at is, okay, just like we have the terminal here, what if we put this on the back end of this video chat site I just made? And then you basically got an AI assistant. But anyways, Chatmoth was saying again about all the new large language models. Currently, there's a bunch. I think there's almost like a couple hundred, or if not 1,000 of them already. And clearly I have one now. So Yeah, a lot of people can go fork those models, train their own models, but still be able to generate, AI.
I could destroy humans. We don't have that yet. So before that is created and shrunk down to an iPhone, I think we need to put some stage gates up to slow people down.
What do you mean by those stage gates? Yeah.
I think you need some form of KYC. I think before you're allowed to run on a massive cluster.
Is that some sort of lubricant in case you get effed? KYC.
To generate the model that then you try to shrink, you need to be able to show people that you're not trying to do something absolutely chaotic or havoc creating. That I don't think that
could be as simple as putting your driver's license in your social security number you're working on an instance in a cloud, right? It could be your putting your name.
Hold on. This is the same government that, just did the lockdowns. This is the same government that lied about the war on terror or lied us into the war on terror as a result of 9/11 in Iraq. They also just pulled out of Iraq in a crazy way. We're apparently fighting another proxy war with Ukraine. Like, do we really need to be asking them for moral or ethical guidance? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, maybe there should be some regulation and stuff, but right now Microsoft is dominating with GPT, and then Google has Lambda and now BERT or BART or BUT, whatever they're calling their AI. It used to be called DeepMind or Google Assistant, but they got all this stuff. So what? Only the big guys are allowed to make any money and everyone else has to go stand in line while they get their jobs automated away and, potentially threaten bankruptcy or mortgage defaults and divorces and all that sort of stuff. Why aren't we allowed to compete?
Name on your work.
It becomes slightly more nuanced than that. It's like, I think that, JCal, that's probably the simplest thing for AWS, GCP, and Azure to do, which is that if you want to run over a certain number of GPU clusters, you need to put in that information. I think you also need to put in your tax ID number. So I think if you want to run a real high-scale model, that's still going to run you tens or hundreds of millions of dollars.
But why do we need to be on the cloud at all? I mean, I just demonstrated that you can have your own private model locally. That actually is a security feature because then you're no longer dealing with the ever-evolving terms of service, the TOS, where Facebook, Twitter, and friends just change the rules whenever they want and selectively enforce it depending on their political agendas or whatever the government tells them to do. You also are not giving them all your for Google Forever. Like every time you search something, Google goes, "Oh, you're looking for a new truck, are you? Let me go tell Ford and GM and get them in a little bidding war to serve you ads, and then see if we can't, monetize this." And you're looking for guns? Let's go tell the IRS and or the State Department or somebody in government that you're now, a danger. So that the security implication is that all that adware turned into spyware. And so touching or interacting with, the internet or the cloud is you're giving up a bunch of data. But as you can see with privateGPT, you could eliminate all of those issues. I mean, the next thing that they would have to do is Apple and friends will have to go start embedding spyware into the machine's operating service or the firmware, which they're doing. Didn't say they didn't, but I'm just saying, the more we could pull back from the cloud, the more secure things get, and the less snoopy people get about what you're doing or not doing, or what you're even thinking about.
I do think there aren't that many people running those things, and I do think it's easy to police those and say, what are you trying to do here? I want to.
Yeah, so anyways, you can go listen to the podcast if you want. For my purposes, what I'm basically saying is that the genie's out of the bottle. Pandora's box has been opened. I mean, as I demonstrated, it didn't take much effort at all to go get privateGPT going. And you also now have the code to pull that apart, throw it into a Flash server, and set it up so that you can start doing your create a chatbot if you want. But I could see, like for example, back in the day, I wrote a bunch of chatbots, Twitter bots. So this one here. So what this one is about is using the Twitter API. This was back in 2015, maybe? I don't know. you go create a fake persona. In this case, I called it Trump Now.
China.
So I thought it'd be funny to use Superman as the mascot for this fake Twitter account that I'm calling Trump Now, because Trump was blowing up Twitter at the time in the news in general during the 2016 run up to the 2016 election. And so I was like, oh, okay, why don't we just go create a fake account and we'll use Superman as the mascot. I used this other thing called Azuqua, which was acquired by Okta, and it automated how you would exercise the APIs for like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Microsoft something, whatever. Okay, hey Twitter, give me all the tweets, up to 10,000 of them, that have the word Trump in it or mentions @real Donald Trump. Then what I want you to do is run that tweet through a sentiment analysis. So there's a tool here for sentiment analysis, and tells you if this is positive or negative. If it's now to anger or piss off the cool kids drinking the Kool-Aid, the haterade, you just say the opposite of whatever they're talking about. So if they're saying something negative about Trump, tweet something positive. If they're saying something positive about Trump, say something negative, and then run that 10,000 times. And so in doing so the channel looks something like this.
China.
This is how you would invoke the Twitter API. You would run the content from Twitter through the sentiment analysis. Then with a quick Boolean logic, you have these canned responses that contradict the tweet. And then on the right here, you can see that we ran it 10,000 times.
China. I love them. China. I have to have my China. China, because China.
Wisconsin, where I'm from.
It's China to me. You want to buy from China? That's great.
Then I start getting all these emails about like, hey, is this like actually a real person? Blah, blah, blah. Then you go and confirm it to pass all the things. And now you have 10,000 tweets done in like, I don't know, 10 seconds, maybe a minute. Then causes all these people to start chasing Trump Now, the Twitter avatar, and, spew their hatred at him. But it's an avatar, so it's a scarecrow. Just beat it up. Or it's a straw man. As you can see. So my point in talking about this particular project way back when, or the chat thing here, is now that we have intelligent AI, we could start invoking those same APIs again. And you're going to violate the terms of service if you hit it 10,000 times in a second. But you could do something more reasonable, like 3, 5, 10 tweets, casually throughout, every 10 minutes throughout the day, every day. You could probably have like 50 of these bots running, and it would seem like real people are talking or tweeting, because you're not going to have the canned responses that I demonstrated in the other one. These are going to actually have information. And so you're probably going to have to optimize how a private GPT responds so that it's more tweetable. So you could use the summing function, I'm guessing. But anyways, the internet is going to get crazy, because you never know if you're actually talking to somebody anymore. You're probably just talking to a bunch of AIs. So anyways, that's about it for me today. What else? Yeah, private GPT, very cool. I mean, there's a couple other AI things going on. As you can see, here's generative AI and a simple GUI to alter the inputs and the outputs of that. Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop just demonstrated a whole bunch of those where you're using generative AI plus, the MML models, so that you could type in what do you want. Wet alley at night, and now you put the deer in a wet alley. It's based off of the mask that you just created. Describe what you want. Red arrow sign. Well, there you go. Boom. So you're seeing a lot going on. I would imagine in a minute you're going to see this show up in After Effects and Premiere. I'm sure Apple got something coming for iMovie and for Final Cut Pro. So then all of a sudden you're going to have like all kinds of special effects and CGI that independent filmmakers like myself can use to create fantastic sci-fi or anything you could think of, really. And then really it comes down to who's the better storyteller, who captures the imagination, who has an imagination. How about that one? But anyways, we'll just let Sam
My worst fears
talk it out, and we'll call it a day today.
are that we, the field, the technology, the industry, cause significant harm to the world. I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong. And we want to be vocal about that. We want to work with the government to prevent that from happening. But we try to be very clear-eyed about what the downside case is and the work that we have to do to mitigate that.
Don't forget to smash that subscribe button.
We are anonymous. We are legion. United as one. Divided by zero. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
No expression. Hide my head. I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow. No tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny. I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Large and open. Mad